there's one less candidate running for president today. Governor Ron DeSantis announced last night he is ending his bid for the White House. DeSantis finished second in last week's Iowa Caucus, told his supporters in his video message that if there were more he could do on the campaign trail, he would do it. But right now, he does not see a clear path to victory. So what happens to all that campaign money left in his war chest?
Now, there are some cases that require candidates to refund their donors. Governor DeSantis, though, won't be forced to do that. Tanner Stewart joins us now to say what he has learned about this process.
So, Bob, going back to May all the way through September of last year, the Federal Election Commission reports Governor DeSantis transferred over $82 million from his gubernatorial campaign to help fund his run for president. But he also raised millions of more dollars from donors. The question moving forward is, where will that money go if there is any left over?
I am today suspending my campaign.
A major shakeup in the Republican presidential race.
In so doing, he was very gracious and he endorsed me.
As Governor Ron DeSantis' focus on the 2024 election shifts toward the former president, we're examining his campaign finances. There are strict guidelines on where leftover donations from the suspended campaign can go. The latest data from the Federal Election Commission shows DeSantis raised just over $31 million from donors. While the campaign spent more than $18 million and owed more than $1 million in debt or loans, they were left with $12 million in cash on hand. It's unclear right now how much, if any, Governor DeSantis' campaign has left over after suspending his bid for president Sunday night. An updated report from the Federal Election Commission will be released later this month. Though we do know a political analysis reveals $23.8 million came from more than 3,800 donors who had each given the maximum primary amount of $3,300. A campaign finance expert outlined for us where the law mandates the money go after suspending a campaign.
Generally, for the most part, when a campaign ends before the general, those funds need to be refunded.
Shanna Ports with the Campaign Legal Center says refunds for campaigns only happen after a candidate loses the primary race or drops out before the general election, which means Governor DeSantis' campaign funds can instead be used to donate to charities, political action committees, or used to transfer toward another federal campaign for DeSantis in the future. The funds can also be used to help dismantle their run for office.
One might be winding down the campaign so they can use the money to make final payments to staff, any expenses associated with packing up their office supplies, maybe moving them to storage. They can send small gifts to donors to say thank you for supporting the campaign. So what is not legal and what they'd be prohibited from doing is using those funds for personal use, meaning to cover any personal expenses of the candidate or the candidate's family member or campaign employees.
Shanna Ports says at its core, strict campaign finance laws are about ensuring trust in the public. Without these rules, Ports suggests the country would lose quality candidates over greed.
They're here in the public interest, and the laws, especially laws that continue to attach after a campaign ends, are there to ensure that.
And happening today, Florida CFO Jimmy Patronis announced the filing of a bill by a Republican senator that would create the Florida Freedom Fighters Fund. That fund would provide up to $5 million in financial support to Florida residents who run for president and face legal action. The bill isn't in response to Governor DeSantis. It was filed in support of former President Trump's run for the White House as he faces an uphill legal battle. In the studio, I'm Tanner Stewart.